recession, there's always going to be one. You see so many knock-on effects of recession. The negatives are going to be everywhere. Negatives in everything, from figures, from turnover, from profitability, from job losses. Those are the first negatives you see in a recession. Now, coming out of a recession, it doesn't go as quickly positive as the way you went negative. So that's the reality, unfortunately. So we, as a company, we're now seeing the positives. As I said, if Nigeria is growing, we're all showing positive GDPs now. We are growing at the same slower pace of GDP, but we are growing now. We have seen a recession prone area turning to a growth optimistic position of the country. People are now more optimistic, positively optimistic in making decisions. Projects are coming back on board. What we've seen this quarter and last quarter actually gives us a sign of positiveness for the year, because the amount of inquiries, the amount of projects being returned to in the last quarter and this quarter is encouraging, because that means people are now believing the economy is growing and it's going to go better. So we've seen a lot of industrial projects come back on play. We've seen a lot of housing projects come back on play. And that, to me, even in the oil sector, a lot of projects are coming back in play in the oil and gas sector. Why? Because now everybody is feeling a lot more positive to the economy. And I think we're going in the right direction. The major thing for supporting Caterpillar, first and foremost, is to provide quality cables. One, and distinctively show what this quality cable look like. And most importantly, apart from that, making sure there's capacity to feed the market, because there's no point fighting adulteration when you yourself cannot feed the market that you are going to remove the adulteration from. And we're making sure that our capacity is always available and it's not yet overused to the point of being burdened. But in terms of what is already there, now we work with SON, we also work on our own, even to fight adulteration, because adulteration is a major pain in our problem to the whole industry, because to those doing adulteration, it is very profitable to them. So you are like fighting criminals that don't really want to leave it. Why I say it's very profitable, there's certain things they do we cannot even do. Today, if you buy a coil of cable that is Coleman, it is 100 meters, not 99, not 98, not plus or minus 3 like some people say. It is 100 meters or more. Now, to a typical, and that is the standard made for Nigeria, a coil of cable should be 100 meters. Now, for an importer or a person doing adulteration, most likely, from our own research and the industrial research that we've done, which we did some years ago, where we took about 20 different brands of cables, both adulterated, both not adulterated, both so-called imported cables. We found out that 100% of them were not even 100 meters. Now, the shocking part was the length we saw. It was between 50 meters, 52 meters exactly. The longest was about 63, 64. Now, even if you take an average of 60 meters, that means they're reducing 40 meters. They're reducing 40%. But they are selling this cable at close to maximum 10% less than the Nigerian cable. So if I remove 40% of a cable and I sold it at 10% less, I've made a lot more money. Then secondly, the actual diameter of the cable, which is the current carrying capacity that it stipulates, it gives you the size of the cable you're going to use, depending on load. They also reduce these things by about 30 to 40% also from our own. So if you look at our 1.5 mm diameter cable, the diameter of the actual copper inside is 1.38. From what we've seen a lot of 1 mm, 0.85, 0.95 copper wire being put inside and branded 1.5. So I have reduced the length 40%. I have reduced the material 40%. But I'm selling it at 10% cheaper than the Nigerian cable. So it's unfortunate that we look at price too quickly, rather than what exactly. Now, price sometimes can be very deceitful.
Very.
Because if you got price that is 10% cheaper than mine, but then you have lost 50-60% of the material, did you actually gain? You more or less lost a lot. So that is the fact of the matter. And unfortunately, it's that price enticement that has made adulteration profitable. We need to look beyond price. We need to market and explain to the industry more that cables are 100 meters. Everybody needs to know what a coil of cable is. Once they know that, I believe part of that will be solved. Okay. And then SON themselves, which we try to work with, but they need to do more in terms of that part of it. I think we shouldn't lose ourselves. Sustaining the growth is easier, but discipline is key. The mere fact that things are going right, Naira is stable at NIFEX at 360, wholesale is around 330. The conversion is most likely going to happen sometime between now and the end of the year. That's what we all see. There must be a conversion. It's about to happen, and it's most likely going to happen. What rate? I don't want to speculate, but it is going to happen. So the key thing is that we're seeing positive signs in the economy, and that I think is what we should focus on, and then make sure that we don't go back to boom and bust. We don't start reversing policies that would invariably turn us back in clock. Because the problem with Nigeria is not that we don't know how to solve the problem. The problem is we don't know how to sustain the solution. There's a difference between I know how to solve the problem, is I know how to sustain it. Okay. Our problem is our inabilities to sustain. We are so brilliant as Nigerians, we know how to get ourselves out of problem. But how do we keep ourselves not going back to the same problem? That's where you policy somersaults. So those are things that don't sustain the solution. So you must, and what we must keep advising government or policymakers is please sustain your ideas and let them run through the test of time. Okay. Rather than because you see it looking better or feeling better, you start reversing a lot of decisions you made, especially when you protected industry. Today, when you look at it, the growth in the rice mill sector, we have more rice mills in Nigeria than we've ever had in 50 years, in the last 3 to 5 years.
I think so.
And there's still more being built. We have more rice farms than we've ever had. Those are policy, because policies and fiscal policies are sustainable. We don't want to start allowing, when it gets right, go and open the door, importation of rice, then you expect this rice mill to survive. Industry don't survive when you reverse policies that sustain them. Okay, so. And that's the key thing. We should not reverse policies that are sustaining this growth. Our projection is still positive. I'm still in the agreement that we're still going to see a GDP over 2% this year. I'm very sure of that from the way we have seen the businesses. Now, you see, Nigeria is lucky in the sense that even when government gets it wrong, the private sector drives it anyway, whether we like it or not. We are in a lucky situation that in the last 5 to 10 years, the country has changed from a government-driven industry to a private sector-driven industry. Now, the private sector wants to survive, whether they like it or not. Now, they not sitting down to do budgets doesn't stop me and you doing our day-to-day lives. Now, it is imperative that they get their acts together. Okay. It is not helpful when we don't have a sitting MPC meeting because they're not forming a quorum, because the National Assembly are busy quarreling with their government, and that doesn't help us. Now, that quorum must stop, and they need to see, patriotism is not about the party badge you take. Patriotism is about you seeing your country first. That's patriotism. So they need to be a bit more patriotic about what they're doing. Interest rate is going to come down. It's already started coming down, because if you look at it today, Treasury bill yield has gone from an 18-19% all high. Today, it's between 11 and 13 and still dropping. Invariably, once yield has dropped, interest rate for normal commercial banking will drop simultaneously. And we have started seeing the impact of interest rate from the beginning of the month.